So let's do a quick review over conflicts, okay? So we have conflict here, right? Okay. Now, how many different types of conflict are there?
4.
Types.
Man versus society, man versus man.
Man versus self.
Okay, those are the different kinds of conflict, but how many different types of conflict do we have?
2.
What are they?
Man versus society and man.
There's 2 types.
Man versus self.
What 2 types are there?
Yellows. Yellow.
Yellow? Jealous?
Jealous.
No. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, so go ahead and give me the different kinds of conflict that you know.
Man versus man.
Okay, versus nature, and then there's man versus self. So what is different about these 2 columns?
Because man versus self is only one person.
Man versus self is only one person, so who do I have the problem with over here?
With yourself.
With yourself. And who is the problem with on this side?
With
Another
other.
person.
Other people or other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So do you know what this kind of conflict is called?
One type.
What type is this called?
Inter-
Say it again louder, Daniel.
inter-
Internal. Good job.
Oh, and the others are
External.
Yeah.
Internal.
Okay. Internal
Oh,
External.
and then external. Okay. So if I'm looking at these 2 words, what part of the word is helping me to know in or out?
In
The in right here.
means in.
Okay. So that's inside
X.
with me. And then what about this?
X.
X.
Exit. Like exit.
So X, what does X mean?
Exit.
Like
Like
So if I'm trying to exit, where am I trying to go?
out.
Out. Okay.
Conflict cells.
conflict down.
Okay. And these are the 2 types.
Dos tipos.
Is it I,
I,
P,
O,
O, S?
S.
Okay, cool. So these are the different kinds and the 2 types. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense, y'all?
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna give y'all a couple minutes to write that down, and then we're gonna flip back to our circle map. I'm doing man versus nature. What picture can I draw?
Tornado.
Okay, so I'm gonna draw a man versus a tornado. What else could we read in class that the main conflict was man versus nature? We read it way in the beginning of the school year. Y'all remember Leaving Desire when the flood in Katrina happened?
Oh
Y'all
yeah.
remember that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I want you to put on the bottom, I want you to put Leaving Desire. So you can know that that text was an example.
Telltale heart.
Telltale Heart, good job. Okay, so if we want to put Telltale Heart here, why did you say Telltale Heart, Cecilia?
Because the man killed the old man and he had a problem with himself.
Right.
Like, nervous.
Right,
Oh,
so at the
yeah.
very end of the story, he's
When he
Yeah.
killed the
right because he was getting nervous because the cops were there. Were the cops paying attention to him?
no.
Or
At
did he
first,
think that because of his conscience?
conscious.
He thought that because of his own conscience. Okay, good job, Cecilia. Okay, we need 2 more. Now, who wants to volunteer and add what they put for setting? Okay, go ahead, Cindy. Okay. So, looking at this date, and remembering that picture that we had yesterday?
Oh yeah, the mom.
Okay, here's a picture of Aunt Polly and Sid and Tom. Does the things in this picture and the way that they dress looks like it is today?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so what do you think would be going on if you were back in time in this time period?
Slavery.
Slavery.
Fight.
What else?
War.
Outside is to think about how it affects theme, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the conflicts that we experienced in chapter 1. So what kind of conflicts were there in chapter 1?
Man versus
Man versus society.
Okay, man versus society. Okay, why? And what man versus society?
Because he.
What man?
Tom.
Tom, good job, Jason. Tom versus society. Why?
How they think.
How
they-
does the society think versus Tom's thinking?
Tom don't work. Tom no go to the school.
Okay, Tom doesn't work. Tom doesn't like to go to school. What else? Okay, what are your examples?
Man
He
versus
have
man.
problems with him out.
Who?
With the
Tom?
other.
Tom
Yeah.
versus
Tom
his
versus-
aunt. Is it really Tom versus his aunt, or Tom
Gee.
versus what his aunt wants him to do?
Aunt wants. The aunt wants Tom to do.
Okay, the aunt wants what the aunt wants Tom to do. So what word does that go with on the chart?
Man versus Tom versus
What'd you say?
society.
authority.
Authority. Okay, so we'll say Tom versus Aunt Polly, but we'll also say authority too, which would be what?
What they want to do. What they trying.
But what conflict? What kind of conflict would that be if it's against authority?
Man versus.
Man versus society.
Man versus society. Good job. Okay. Does that make sense, y'all? So
Yes.
can I draw this arrow and y'all know it's Tom versus Aunt Polly, but also Tom versus authority, which is man versus society?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good job.
Why?
Why?
Why he do the boy?
Why? We need to know why. Okay? If you don't have this written down, you need to write it. Why he wrote the story, or why he did what he did. Why he used imagery. Why did the author use personification? Why did the author write chapter 1? We're trying to figure out why the author did it. What was his purpose for doing that? What was he trying to tell the reader by doing this thing? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does it make sense, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay. What do you guys think the purpose of chapter 1 was? If I'm trying to learn about the characters.
Personification.
Characters.
Okay, characterization, okay? So, to characterization, we're going to write that. But Edgar, good start though.
Thank
You. Okay, were there any other purposes for chapter 1? Y'all did a really good job though, okay? He introduced the different conflicts. He set the setting in chapter 1, where the story's taking place. We got to know a little bit about Tom and Sid and Aunt Polly.
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there any other purposes for chapter 1?
How is the tone?
He set up the tone. So, what kind of tone do you think the story is starting off to be? Thinking about tone, who is that referring to?
To the
To the author. Okay. Now, what about the author has to do with tone? What am I trying to figure out if I'm thinking about tone?
feel.
Whose feelings?
The
Okay, the author's feelings. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so underneath tone, I want you to write kind of small, author's feelings, so we don't forget. And the theme better. Does that make sense?
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want y'all to try to do that with your group, and then we're going to try to come back and see what you all came up with at the end of class. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes because it's almost time to go. Okay, what can y'all come up with and talk about in 5 minutes about how conflict is important to the theme of follow the rules? Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
If you need to go back to your story, go back to your story. Okay, so go ahead and start.